Shane O'Connor.
BBC Coventry and Warwickshire.
6 minutes past 9, good morning. Two Coventry teenagers who were thought to have left the city to go and fight with ISIS militants in Syria could have been brainwashed. That's the fear of Kabir Amani, whose son Rashid is believed to have joined Ali Calendar and Mohammed Hadi and travelled to Syria via Turkey.
My background, my family is not extremists. We hate them. We don't like them. That's why. Because it's not in my way. I don't know what happened with him. Maybe somebody worked with him. I don't know. Maybe somebody brainwashed. Because he was not like that. When we came here in 2005, they come to join me. We was not like that. We never think about it. We never talk about this.
Speaking through a translator, Rahim Calendar thinks that his son has been radicalised.
I'm confident that the Imam is behind this. I have no doubt. Our local mosque was organizing classes for them after the evening prayer time. The Imam encouraged them and brought them to this path.
That the Imam in question has been offered the opportunity to be interviewed by the BBC, but has declined that offer and has also strenuously denied the allegations. Dr. Abdullah Shehu, he's from the Coventry Muslim Forum. He joined me earlier on the show, and he says that there are strict rules on who can give lectures at mosques in the city.
They are vetted very seriously, and if you go as somebody who is not known and you say you want to give a talk to the youth, you will not be allowed to do that because of fear that you may be telling them the wrong thing, and so the mosque committee or the madrasas committee do not allow you to do that. This is the practice in Coventry that I know of, and that is why I'm shocked and surprised to hear the furthest allegation. I'm not disputing what he said because I don't have the evidences, but nevertheless it will be very surprising to hear that.
Let's talk to Usman Nawaz, who's a former member of the Young Muslim Advisory Group, who was originally set up to help the government on issues of extremism. Usman, good morning.
Good morning. It was actually the previous government, Sean.
Shane, sorry. Sorry, it was the previous government who disbanded it or set it up?
Well, the previous Labour government, when Hazel Bayes was Secretary of State, set the organisation up, Young Muslims Advisory Group, bring together 20 young Muslims to advise them on issues to do with extremism and radicalisation, and the coalition government disbanded it in October 2010.
I mean, if you look back on that and think, well, why on earth would you do that? I suppose cost might have been an issue at the time, but of course, it's what's the cost in human terms if you disband? I mean, was it working for both you and the government? Were you being able to give them information that was useful to them?
Well, I mean, the idea was that we had access to Secretaries of State, Cabinet Ministers. We were able to speak to them, provide a perspective from all around the country, young Muslim males and females around the country, to say, this is what young people are thinking. These are real issues that you need to be reacting to and addressing and dealing with through your policies and through your rhetoric. And this was set up in 2008, post 7/7, to really understand what is going on in the minds of young Muslims. So it was a shame that it was disbanded in 2010 by the government.
How easy is it to get to youngsters and to understand how they're feeling and I suppose ultimately to prevent them from putting themselves in danger, putting other people in danger as well? It was interesting, I was talking to a guy who's now with the Quillam Foundation who I think at 19 was out in Afghanistan fighting when the Russians were out there at that particular conflict in the 1990s, and he said, there was probably nothing, very little that would have stopped him. How can you do that, do you think?
Well, the big difference now to that conflict many years ago is that you can actually follow it in real time. You can literally follow tweet by tweet what is going on in Syria and Iraq, and so the social media strategy that ISIS are kind of applying and employing is doing wonders for them. This video that they made and which has recently come to prominence has gone absolutely viral. 3-4 young people sat around as if they're around a campfire presenting a rosy, romantic, almost HD picture of jihad. A complete fallacy.
I was going to say, and people are buying this. I suppose they're youngsters, aren't they? So they're falling for it, are they?
Well, there's two things really from all of this that really stick out for me. One is it's a call to the heart. It's saying that if you do not come and join us, then your faith is really in question.
Right.
Can you be a true Muslim if you're not part of this struggle? Secondly, this is not a call coming from the head of the organisation, a commander. This is a call coming from peers, young people themselves, saying, you know what, we were medical students, we wanted to be the first Asian British Prime Minister, etc. And we came out and did this, so why can't you do it? And that's really what is worrying, that this is young people, this is a new tactic being applied by the extremists and terrorists to use young people themselves to appeal to directly young people of the host country and say, you come and join us. That's a really, really worrying thing. So, we've had people from Coventry and Birmingham and Cardiff, and, these aren't unique to those places. There are people from around the country who have travelled. According to Khalid Mahmood, about 2,000, others say about 500. We don't actually know what the real figures are. There needs to be some real analysis as to who has actually gone out there, and when and if they do return, they need to be thoroughly investigated by the authorities, because the training that they receive, the indoctrination that they would have gone through, can and will be damaging to social cohesion and our national security in this country.
It's difficult though, isn't it, Usman? Because nobody. I mean, you're right in what you're saying, is that we need a real gauge of the intelligence and understanding how many people are going out there and what's actually happening. But it's so difficult because nobody gets on a plane in Heathrow and says, 2 tickets to Syria. They all go out and head out to Turkey or adjoining countries and then head in that way. So it's in the absence of that, you can't really do that, can you? Can't you?
It's a challenge. And I don't deny that it's a massive challenge. I mean, the parents of these young people, if they have one thing in common, it's that they didn't know what their young people, what their children were doing. Listen to their testimonies. The parents of the boys from Cardiff, of the ones from Coventry, they had no idea what their sons were into. If young people are concerned about the situation in Syria, in Iraq, we need to be making sure that there are safe spaces within the community, within society, where those discussions can take place and can be challenged. Those views can be challenged. If somebody is espousing views such as, you need to go there and fight, and people are buying into that, well, they need to be actively challenged within colleges, within universities, within mosques, and, within wider society. However, if people aren't even aware of those issues, aren't aware of these views, aren't aware of who's espousing those views, then it's a real challenge for the security services, even for families, to really make sure that their loved ones do not get caught up in this conflict. Because the reality is, they probably don't know what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
They don't know they don't understand the nuances of it. They think they're going there to help. When they get there, they're getting tied up into terrorist organizations, sent into regiments, sent to Iraq and other places to fight a sectarian conflict, which is incredibly disturbing, and will only get worse unless we can somehow stop and stem this tide of people leaving this country to go and take part in a war and a conflict they don't understand. The more
you say, the more I think that a large part of this has to come from the communities and the families that these young men are coming from, Usman. And I just wonder whether we're starting to see now these communities, these families starting to say, do you know what, we're not putting up with this anymore. We're starting to speak out, and for the first time, we're starting to hear the voices of families, quite heart-rending accounts from family. We heard one of those fathers. I played a clip earlier. We heard that in full earlier, and it just really put a really sad human price on all of this and what it was doing. He said, "What about his mother? How's his mother?" He said his mother just cries all the while. That's all she does. But are we reaching a saturation point where these communities are starting to now say, "Do you know what? This is enough now."
I think so, and I think moderate voices, mainstream voices have always spoken out. But what we're hearing now are families kind of not afraid to show their faces or show who they are, just to say, it sends out a message to other parents. Have those conversations with your children. Are they at university? Growing a beard or becoming more religious isn't necessarily a sign of extremism or radicalism or fundamentalism. That's a very kind of natural way of coming into your religion. That's perfectly fine. But the moment that they start to mix politics with the religion and begin to think that they have some kind of duty to be a part of this war, and any of those kind of materials that they bring into the house, they need to be actively challenged. And so I think the fact that these parents, these brave fathers, have spoken out, and really, they feel betrayed by their own sons who have gone out. I think that's a wake-up call to all parents to have those conversations with their young people to see where their thinking is. As a community, I think we need to become more resilient. We need to think critically. We need to challenge more effectively. And I think that is happening because it will not be tolerated. It will not be accepted that people from this country are going abroad. If anybody wants to take part in a war, wants to fight, stand up and join the British Army because this is where you live. This is the country you ought to be defending.
As a final point, Usman, you and I and many other people can talk and talk and talk about this, and I suppose really it's the actions that speak louder than anything. And the guy that we were talking to, who's now at the Cullen Foundation, was saying, I said to him, what was it that brought you back from Afghanistan and made you think, actually, do you know what, this isn't for me? He said was the realisation that it wasn't a jihad, it wasn't a crusade against the infidel or somebody threatening their religion. He said it was Muslim killing Muslim, and I thought, hang on a second, this isn't what I was sold. Do we need? I mean, is this part of the process that sadly young men need to go out there, hopefully survive and come back and say it was a con? It wasn't what I was sold. Is that part of the process?
I'm hoping that they don't need to go there, but I think there needs to be more greater awareness of what is actually happening, and because. It isn't the case that it's all very, black and white. You know who the good guys are. You know who the bad guys are. It's not split up like that. The sectarian war around the Sunnis versus Shias. I come from a Sunni background. I do not ascribe one iota or subscribe to anything that the ISIS claim to be standing for in terms of Sunni Islam. They're not representative. They're extremists. Sunnis in Iraq and Sunnis across the world are denouncing them. So, this is a conflict which isn't really understood by these people going there to fight. They think they're doing something noble. In fact, they're being fooled and hoodwinked into thinking that they're doing something which is noble. It is not. We need to have greater awareness of what the actual situation is. If you want to help people in Syria, there's ways you can do that through aid, through giving charity. Lobby your MP, lobby your politicians. We have a great tradition of freedom of speech. You're free to say what you want, but be prepared for that to be challenged if you're going to aspire views such as you've got to travel abroad. So we need to, as a community, I think, be more resilient and prepare to kind of take on some of these more extreme elements on social media and in individuals as well.
Usman, good to talk to you. Thanks for your contribution this morning. Usman Nawaz there, who's a former member of the Young Muslim Advisory Group, as he says, which was set up by the Labour government and subsequently disbanded by the coalition. You're with the Breakfast Show on BBC Coventry and Warwickshire.